Hi everyone, we're here today with Eve Goulet, former Northeastern Women's Soccer player who's now cooking up a storm using the flick of her wrist in the baking world. It's great seeing you again, Eve. How are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's great, like being able to get your story out there, and after just finishing up playing as well, so it's good for you. Unfortunately, we couldn't do this in person because of coronavirus, but
For
we'll
sure.
get there.
For sure.
So, you grew up in Sutton, Mass. Tell us about life there, living outside of a city like Boston.
Yeah, so the town that I still live there now. I'm with my parents after I graduated, especially due to the whole COVID-19. I'm back at home, and it's very opposite from the city. It's a really quiet, small town, which I'm really happy in retrospect to have grown up in a town like this. And soccer in my town was always such a big thing. Um, so it was pretty easy for me to get involved in that. And then pretty much growing up, I've kind of know, it's such a small town that I pretty much know everybody in the town. And um, sorry. And sorry, I just walked in the room. Um, and I graduated with like 100 kids with me in high school that I've pretty much been friends with since like preschool. So that was kind of cool. Um, but yeah, so I've loved it, and I definitely don't want to stay here though. I'd like to go back to Boston or a different
Fed up of your
city.
family already?
You know what? Like it's great in here, but at my age, I just don't think that this is like it's a little slow for me right now. But it was definitely great to grow up in a place like here. So
So how did you adapt then, like moving from such like a quiet, like family orientated town to being in a big city like Boston, like always on the
yeah,
go, like people
for
you can't
sure.
breathe without someone like down your neck.
Yeah, it was totally different. But it's funny when I was actually looking to and like I was going through the recruitment process for soccer, I was always telling my parents like I don't want to go to a city. I don't want to go to a city. And all the schools that I ended up looking at were in cities, major cities. So I was like, you know what? Let's give it a try. And thank God I did because I love the city so much more. Um,
Yeah, it's just
yeah, I
it's
think
a difference as well from like growing up in a small quiet like town to like going to a city that's always busy, and it's a
yeah,
kind of flick of the switch like where you're like, oh, this is great.
for sure. And I know like some people in my town that I grew up with ended up going off into more like bigger towns or bigger cities and they kind of hated it or they were like, yeah, this isn't for me. I grew up in a smaller place and this is it. And then other people like myself, my sister and my brother actually were all going to um, went to or going to schools in bigger cities and we're all like, yeah, that's kind of the like direction that we all wanted to head. So yeah.
Yeah, so you obviously started playing soccer as a young girl. What first got you interested in soccer?
Yeah, kind of like I mentioned really quickly, soccer's always been such a big thing in my town. Even though we're a smaller town, we've had a lot of success in soccer specifically with the kids that have grown up and played here. We don't have a football program, you know what I mean? We don't really have like too much going on, but soccer was always constant. The club that I grew up playing for, um, was out of Sutton. So I think that's what really like sparked my interest. Well, at the time it was my parents' interest because I think I was like 4 years old. So me and my sister were kind of just like not at an age where we could really determine what we wanted to do and what we didn't. So my parents were like, yeah, let's throw them into soccer because that's what everybody here does. And so they got us involved. My sister doesn't play soccer anymore, but I continued down that road and yeah, I ended up playing for the club that was in my town basically my entire childhood. So up until
Yes.
high school.
Yeah, so you played for FC Stars in Massachusetts and Sutton High School. How did you enjoy your time there?
Well, Stars of Mass was my club team, yeah, and I joined them my freshman year of high school, and that was probably like one of the best decisions I've made, especially at like a younger age like that. I knew at a certain point that the club that I had was playing for was like it was too small for me. Um, and the Stars of Mass program was just constantly growing. And I wanted to play the best soccer that I could. And that was the step that I had to take. So my freshman year, I joined and I had made the ECNL team, which is the league we played in, which is called the Elite Clubs National League. And that was like by far one of the coolest experiences I've had playing soccer, because we pretty much were in a national league, and there was about 4 or 5 times a year, including nationals, where we were able to travel the country with the girls on the team and play for like 6 or 7 days in like whatever, all different parts across the country, which was really, really cool. And
Yeah.
that was probably like, I've made so many good friends on that team. Rosie, Hannah Rosenblatt, actually, one of them, who is my best friend. She was my roommate, she was my teammate, and she was my also teammate for Stars Mass. So, and then playing for Sutton High School was a completely different experience, because the Stars of Mass was super high profile, and we were kind of traveling all over the place. And my Sutton High School team was kind of just like where I was rooted, where I grew up, and I played with the same girls that I had known my whole life. And that was really cool, because we won a state championship my junior year. And on that team, it was just like, it was as intense as like I could be sometimes with soccer. That was a really fun, less pressure almost, playing for my high school. So it was cool.
Yeah, so it was like kind of 2 different like scenarios where FC
Yeah,
Stars was always competing. You were with like the best players around, and then but you still had that like kind of family vibe that you get from your town by playing with your local high school.
for sure. It was a good balance.
What were the girls like that played there? Like a lot of them like go on to play in college, or was it just like you and Rosie?
So the girls that were in my year, actually, we had, so for my Stars of Mass team, I think everybody, but I think every single girl on the team actually ended up going to play in college, and most of us played at D1 programs. And I'd say there's probably about 7 girls that every season, us at Northeastern, Rosie and I, we end up playing. I think it was like UVM, URI, Boston University, UMass Lowell, Syracuse. So kind of girls all over, which was really cool that we still get to see them. And
Yeah,
then for my high school team, it was a little bit different. Everybody had always grown up playing soccer, but not so many people necessarily went on to play in college. I was the only one within like the 4 years I was there to go play D1, besides one of my really good friends who played at URI.
yeah,
So
that's the thing. Like you play with some great players over the years, and you always remember each other, and it's always like good when you catch up. It's you get the competition against them instead of being with them as well.
oh, for sure. It was so interesting because like it was weird, because when I played for the Fuller Hamlets before I had gone to Stars, I had played against all these girls, and then they were my teammates for 4 years, and then we went to college and I played against them again. So it was kind of like back and forth, but it was cool. Like on the field, like, I mean, you're competing. You don't really, depending on the position too. Some of them, the ones that played defense and I was on defense, I didn't really barely saw throughout the game, but like after the game, it was cool because our parents would sit together on the sideline, whatever, we'd hang out after the game. So,
Yeah, just bring back the good memories that you had
oh
from
my gosh,
growing up
yeah,
playing.
yeah.
So
And
obviously,
beyond that, even like there's a lot of girls on the Northeastern team now that played for Stars, and
yeah,
the way it worked, that aren't my age, and the way it worked when I was in high school in the Stars program is like every so often you have like exposure to girls like other ages, especially like the year below you and the year above you, right?
yeah,
So there's a few other girls on Northeastern now, or that were on and graduated before me, that like I'm really good friends with, and we kind of just have that Stars bond even though we weren't the same age. So it's cool as well.
yeah.
For
So
sure.
obviously, in 2013-14, you were named Massachusetts Gatorade Player of the Year. It was a great achievement. You must have been delighted that your hard work had paid off that season.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I always knew it was a thing, but like when I tell you the day that I got home from school and my mom was like, "You are one of the nominees for Gatorade Player of the Year," I was like, "What the hell?" Like, I was like so happy, but I was like, then I was like, oh God, like, well, what if I don't win now? I'm nominated. Like, oh my gosh. And so I kind of was like, no, be normal. Like, don't worry about it. Like, I know it was like a really cool thing, and like I'd love to be able to like have accomplished something like that. So like inside I was like, oh my gosh, like I hope I win it. But like on the outside I would really try to play it cool and was like, no, it's cool. Like, we'll see what happens. Don't make this a big deal. And then I think the day I found out, I was like on my way home from school. This was my junior year, and that was probably like one of my like favorite years in my high school experience of playing soccer. Just like, it was just a great year overall. And that kind of just like topped it off. And my mom was like, Eve, like, can I swear?
Yeah, of course.
She was like, you fucking won. I was like, what the hell? I was like, okay, that was cool. And so my high school did some cool things for it. And yeah, so it was fun.
Yeah, that must have been a proud moment for your parents and also your brother and sister as well, like seeing you.
Oh, yeah. I think they were just as much like, who nominated you for this? Like, how did you get involved in this kind of thing? Like, obviously, like, they're like most parents, they're like, oh my God, my kid's awesome. Like, we're so proud of them. But when I won that, I think we were all just like, whoa, that's cool. Awesome.
It's like, we've got a star in our hands here.
I was like, dang.
And
And then I got the trophy like shipped to my house. I was like, oh God, I don't feel worthy of this. Like, it's still in my room, of course, because
yeah,
but
you can't put that anywhere else. Like, it has to be front
I
and
tried to
center.
hold on to it while I could.
So how do you think like all these experiences like growing up there prepared you for the life of college soccer?
Yeah, I think that like me going to Stars, I think that, like I said, was one of the best things I've done, because it was extremely challenging, and I realized there the importance of the people on my team and how much that was going to factor in my decision of where I wanted to go. Um, and then along with that, my coach was great. I adored him so much, and he was one of the biggest reasons I was able to look at certain schools that I looked at, because he had really good connections with a lot of different schools. And I think, in my opinion, he prepares everybody who goes off to play, especially D1 college, super well. So yeah, I kind of just knew that I wanted to stay towards like in New England if I could, just because I was like 15 years old and it sounded really cool to go over to like California and everything like that, but I knew at the end of the day that wasn't something that I was going to do. So yeah, I mean, what was your actual question again? I'm sorry. I started to like
It's
mumble.
like, so how did this help you prepare like for the life of college soccer? Obviously, it's like pretty demanding.
Yeah. I mean, my start team, it was super intense. Like, it was really intense. And I think like the level that my team was at, you didn't really fit into this program. At least on that level team, if you weren't like extremely committed. Thankfully I was, and thankfully I enjoyed that. But throughout my time there were different cases of players who kind of were like, yeah, I don't really think that this is it for me. So I think that, which was like totally cool, whatever, they kind of went and played on a different team or did whatever they wanted to do. But I think that was like a crucial time where it will show you, and girls on the team, including myself, like, okay, like, is this the type of life that you want to have? Is this the type of experiences you want to have? And for me, it was. So I kind of knew that challenging myself, or you know what I mean, like that commitment level that is required at a D1 program, was something that like I wanted to do.
Yeah. What kind of players did you look up to then, like growing up, that you made you want to kind of push on and go to college, play soccer still?
Yeah, there was a few girls that played for Stars. Kim Slade, so she was a few years older than me. She actually went to Northeastern. You know, obviously Kim.
Yeah.
And she was awesome. Like, she was so well respected at our club, and she was a great player. So I think I was like, yeah, I kind of want to be like her. And I knew what she was. I mean, I didn't really know her personally, but I knew what she was like on her team, and like the expectations that she held of herself. And then there was another girl. Her name was Morgan Andrews. She actually plays in the NWSL. She played for my club team as well. She's from New Hampshire. She was New Hampshire Gatorade Player of the Year the same year I was, but she was way cooler than me. She won the national. She got national Gatorade Player of the Year. So, she was awesome. Like, she like scared the crap out of me when like we'd go to practice and like our teams would practice together sometimes. But it was really cool to like see her intensity, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need, kind of thing.
Yeah, like to drive you on and get to that next stage.
Yeah, like she was like extremely confident and like extremely bold, and I was like, that's what like I'd want to be like, you know what I mean? Like, I love that. So
yeah, so you ended up at Northeastern. What other schools were you looking at in the process?
yeah, so I pretty much stayed looking at schools in the Northeast, but particularly New England. Actually, by the end of like where I was determining where I wanted to go, it was 3 schools in Massachusetts. It was Holy Cross, Boston College, and Northeastern. And to be honest, Holy Cross, it was pretty like, that was like an easier decision to make because it's like 10 minutes away from my house. The school's a lot smaller than Northeastern or BC. And yeah, there are of course like many people, like just my own personal factors that played into why I didn't think that was a great fit for me. So after that, it was between BC and Northeastern. And to be honest, that decision was a lot harder for me than I had expected it to be, because growing up, like, it was, BC is like a big school in Massachusetts, right? So I was always like, literally since I was like 10 years old, like I want to play at BC. I want to play at BC. And so then when I had the opportunity, I was like, well, this is like this is what I've always wanted. Like, I'd be crazy to not, like, you know what I mean, take this chance. But then looking into more specific things, and like after going on visits to both programs and schools, like meeting the girls at Northeastern, meeting the coaches at Northeastern. Obviously, I have a different coach, but the coaching staff in general, because she was an assistant at that time, was like a huge factor. And then like financially too, like realistically, like I wanted to go to a school where I got more financial support, because while like everybody is in different financial situations, like it was important to me and my family to put myself in the best position for that. So, and academics was like something that played into it, of course, as well. But like when I was like 15, I didn't really understand. That was more my parents kind of pushing me to a certain place. But yeah, the co-op program, I was like, yeah, that's cool. I guess I'll just stop going to school for a year and go do an internship. So
go make some money.
Let's do it. And just in retrospect, I'm like so happy I chose Northeastern. And like I do believe that like everything does, like that was the path that I was supposed to take, and that was my journey that I was supposed to experience, because I'm like so thankful for it, and especially thankful for the opportunity to have a 5th year like we have here, unlike most schools, because yeah, I would have been really lost if I had graduated almost a year ago.
Yeah.
Rather than in a month virtually.
At least you wouldn't have coronavirus by then, though.
Yeah, right.
So obviously you played your first game of your freshman season against UMass Lowell, but then you suffered an injury to derail your freshman year. That must have been a big blow. How did that make you feel at the time?
Yeah, that was horrible, to be honest, because just to be like genuine and raw, actually it was my junior year in high school. It was about a few months after I had won Gatorade Player of the Year. I was in Pennsylvania in a conference game with my Stars team, and I broke my ankle. I broke it pretty bad. I had to have surgery, so that's pretty much where that whole journey began. I think I handled it. I didn't handle it great. I think I was young, but on top of that, I really didn't take responsibility of the recovery process. And I think I was just almost ignorant to how much I would be affected by being out for 8+ months.
Yeah.
And having multiple surgeries within the 8 months to get pins removed, you know what I mean? Plates removed, stuff like that. So when I got to school, I'd say like I was like pretty unprepared, and I realized that really quick in preseason, and I was like, oh man, it's gonna be it's going to be a long season because of where I was at.
Yeah.
And people are like, like, that really sucks, but like you figured it out. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but like I really learned my lesson that year because that was not a great year for me.
Yeah, because
But
it was a long road back to recovery for you, and I know there was a lot of setbacks along the way. I remember being in the treatment room with you at times, and
yeah,
it was tough.
if you know what, it was those damn fitness tests. Those fitness tests, and just months and months and months of running. But I mean, like I was lucky that I had my girls in my class are awesome. Like I love those girls. Um, they're some of my best friends. And while my freshman year, the coach that I had originally um, was recruited by ended up leaving right after our season. And then the new head coach, who was our assistant coach at that time, she was like, Eve, like, I believe in you. And I knew she believed in me. And that really sparked me to be like, well, why don't I believe in myself? You like, kind of like, I'm so stupid. Why would I not believe in myself? And she supported me so much and was like, you can change the position you're in. And so it was pretty much after we had a conversation like that, I had another surgery. I think it was in like January. So I was out all of the spring, but basically from the day that I had gotten surgery up until that next preseason, so my sophomore year was just like dedicated to recovering and then just like putting myself in a much better position than I was in the year before. And
So,
luckily that I'm local, so I was here for the summer, and my coach Ash, she was able to help me with that and stuff. And my strength conditioning coach, I put all my trust into him, and I was just like, Dan, I'm gonna do every single thing you say, so just tell me what to do.
the black magic stuff.
I was like, I'm gonna trust you. Like literally, you could tell me to like spin in a circle 18 times and like whatever, I would do it. I'd be like, fine.
So during this time, it must have been like tough for you to try and stay positive. Would you say like Ashley was a big factor in like keeping your mind on track as well?
Yeah, I think just like her being like I believe that you are capable of so much more. I think that really was like holy crap. Like I was able to step back for a moment and see things like from a different perspective and be like, yes, wow, that was really like not an ideal freshman year, especially after seeing like how some of my classmates had completely opposite experiences. I think that was
Yeah,
hard. Because at times I was like, well, I'm like the outlier. But I knew that if she had faith in me and I had faith in me, then like that's really only the only reassurance I had needed to kind of take it piece by piece. And I think for me, like what I learned from that end of my freshman year and summer going into my sophomore year was kind of like, yeah, well, like maybe I can't run today because I have a cast on, but like, did I do every other single thing I could? So you know what I mean? Put myself in a better position for
yeah,
tomorrow. And so I think that was like super helpful to kind of just have like little successes, like little wins that kept me really motivated.
yeah. So as you returned to the field for the start of the 2016 season, you started 9 out of 12 games in a season where you went on to win the CAA championships and made an NCAA tournament appearance and a narrow loss to Clemson. That must have felt great for you, knowing that all the little pieces of work you'd put in, the hard work you gave to get back to full fitness, brought these sort of rewards in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like the way I'd say it is like from when I had gotten that surgery in January up until like the first day that I played in a game, it was kind of just like it's adding fuel to the fire, building my confidence and the belief in myself. And like once I had that chance, and I think I played like 7 minutes the first game that I played that season, that first conference game. And then I played like 66, I think, the next game, and then like the full 90. And then the full 90 from that point on. I think that was able to like have that experience because I was so confident in the work that I'd put in, and therefore I was so confident in myself. And my teammates, I think, saw a change in me, and I saw a change in myself, thankfully, like with their help too,
Yeah,
obviously. So that was like such a good feeling to like actually feel like I was part of the team and helping the team, which was different than what I had felt my freshman year. And yeah, I think just like having that feeling of like I was part of something so much bigger than myself with them. Like, I would have done anything for them. And I think that was something that really, I think everybody on the team was like that year. And most years, of course, like, but this year, everything just felt like it aligned up so perfectly.
Yeah.
And even though we had like a lot of setbacks, a lot of hardships, and dealt with adversity, it just seemed like everything we did, like, we handled so well. And I think we were just like, we would just lay down to die for one another. And I think that's what made us so successful that year, which was like by far the best year of my life. So
Yeah, you said that togetherness, and like it looked as though everyone instilled that bit of confidence in each other, like with
yeah.
everything they did.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, Rosie and I can't even really explain it today, but there was just like this aura that year. There was just something about that year that it was like, we just knew we were going to be successful. It was so weird. It was so cool though. But yeah, that was by far like the best year of my life. And so we won CAs. And like, I think we won, like, I think that score was like 3-1 or something. So like
Yeah.
the last like 5 minutes of the game, like, we were just like, I know that this is not typically how you should be, but like, we were kind of just like chilling. Like, we were like, holy shit, we're about to win. And that was awesome. And then we went to Clemson, and like, we actually fought our asses off. So that was a pretty cool game. And it was a really cool experience because that's where Ashley, my head coach, went to school,
Yeah.
and played soccer there. So that was like really funny, full circle for her. And we ended up losing, which was really crappy, but it was such a fun experience.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like being able to have, like, say, oh yeah, I've won the CA championships, I've played in the
Right.
NCAA's, like that defines your college career, like there.
Oh, for sure. Like, I don't even think people remember that year, like, what everybody did individually. Not to sound like lame or whatever, but I think nobody cared. Oh, like, whatever, so and so won this. Of course, like, we were proud for each
Yeah.
other, but like, each individual that had won something was like, yeah, cool, I don't care, we won CAAs kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I really wish we had beat Clemson because I would love to look back and be like, yeah, we beat Clemson. So,
Yeah, we done it.
but it is what it is.
So obviously that year would have been topped off by the news that you managed to get your year back that you lost through injury. That must have been such a big relief to you.
Oh my gosh. It was like, it was funny because I had always like had this, I never knew the rules of being able to get a year of eligibility back. And because I was technically like participating in practice all throughout my freshman year, but I had an underlying injury that I had proof of throughout the whole season. I didn't think that it really was a possibility for me. I thought, like I said, I didn't know the rules, so I just thought like you could only get your eligibility back if you basically like were unable to walk and not even like go to practice kind of thing. Um, and so my parents had brought it up a few times, and I was like, yeah, I don't really think that that's ever going to happen. And then it wasn't until the end of my, what I thought my senior year, my fourth year, we were like sitting at actually one of the men's team's games up in the field house. And I was like, Ash, what if I tried to get my eligibility back from freshman year? Do you think I could? And she was like, wait a sec. She like started doing her research, and she
Yeah.
was like, wait a sec, you played 7 minutes total, right? I was like, yep, that's it. And she was like, and then you had surgery right after season because of an injury you had all season, right? I was like, yeah. Jeff, our athletic director, was at the game also, at your game, and he was like, Ash was like, Jeff, come upstairs. And so they were basically like, this is going to happen. We're going to make this happen. You're going to get your year back. So I like was freaking out because I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, that would be like the best news I'll ever hear if that's the case. But like, I didn't want to get my hopes up. So I was trying to be like realistic about it. And then at that point, it was kind of out of my hands. Ash and Mary and compliance and athletic trainers basically took care of so much of the paperwork. And then it wasn't until like, I think until like March where they were like, yep, you finally, like, we got the news back, you got your eligibility back, which was the coolest thing ever. I was so excited. I didn't even really know how to feel. Like, I didn't feel like it was real. But at the same time, I also didn't feel like I ever ended playing soccer
Yeah.
because I didn't know what that was like either. That sort of feeling would have felt like. So it was in this weird in between that I think I just the whole time secretly was like, yeah, I'm not done. I'm not done. So thankfully it worked out that way.
Yeah, you obviously played with some great players in that in their teams over the years as well. Who were the girls that would say impressed you the most?
Impressed me in terms of like soccer or just like in terms of like their impact
In
on my
terms
life
of
or on.
oh, both, like whatever you prefer. Like obviously, there were some great players on the field. Like
Yeah.
technically, like I'd never seen girls play as well as like you did.
Yeah. Let me think about that. So I think my my sophomore year when I started to play, like obviously I didn't have any experience on the field before the year before. So when I got on the field, I played center back with Jenny Sinclair, one of the two twins. She was like a legitimate wrecking ball. Like the girl was like would like legally and illegally like wipe people out like left and right, and I was just like, okay, like that is so cool. I can't be over here and like, I can't look like a pussy. Like I have to step my game up.
Yeah,
And so she was somebody that I really remember because she was badass. And then I mean, like the Loppy, Kayla Capuzzo, like they were just like the duo. Like when we came in freshman year, like we knew that they kind of just like ran shit on the field a lot. Um, yeah, and then the girls, like I'd say like Karina. Karina probably had like such an impact on just how much influence she had on people
yeah,
and on me too. Just like how she handled herself, how she treated people, her
yeah.
confidence.
She went through like her business like on the low, but like it impacted everyone around her. She was
For
like
sure.
she was the best like centre mid I saw play at Parsons Field, and
Yeah.
that's including Dan Arvidsson.
Yeah. She like she saved our ass. There were days where I was like, oh my God, thank God. Thank God for Karina. No, but she was a captain, I think, since her sophomore year. So she was a captain every year I was there until she graduated. Which was so cool because like before I become captain and she was captain, I was like, yep, like, well, I'm just gonna do what she does because this girl does it well. And then Kim Slade, she was my girl. I've always loved Kim. Um, yeah, I mean, she's just such a nice person and she's so personable. Like she would always be that person to always check up on you.
Yeah,
Um, and then basically my whole class, like I love those girls. So like Val, Lizzie, Nikki Gorman, Nat, Rosie, me, we really kind of just like each brought our own like personality to the team. And so our like friend group, our class. So it was so much fun with them. Like, yeah. And then the younger girls that I've met over the years, like Megan and Hallie, she's a freshman now. Hallie's a little freshman, but she's one of my closest friends. June, Julianne, she's from Rhode Island, Megan. Honestly, so many people, sorry, this is like such a run on answer, but like so many girls on the team I like adore and like I like gonna be friends with probably forever.
yeah.
I'm going to Kayla's wedding.
There
So
we go.
we've always said when we were on the team, I can't wait for you guys to come to each other's weddings. It's gonna be so fun. And here we are going to Kayla's wedding this fall.
So obviously you mentioned like everyone like brought a different kind of type of personality like to the equation, and living in Boston like with all your friends, that must have been fun. Like what kind of stuff did you get up to that people might not know?
Oh God. There's just like so many funny things that like
I saw you on top of punters tables and
well that's the thing is like so many things that each other know about in our whatever our team and stuff, but nobody else knows about. Um yeah, I think they were just like it's so funny. Like sometimes like some nights we'd plan for a whole like fantastic night out and it'd be like so fun. But then other nights like you would have no idea like that it was probably gonna be like one of the most fun nights of your life, just randomly. And a lot of the times it was like with like guys on your team or you know what I mean, like girls in the basketball team, guys other like hockey guys, whatever, like basically field hockey girls, whatever, different athletics that like we all just were together. And I think like some of the most memorable experiences we have was when we did our trip to Europe and like I've sworn by this, so I really can't get into too much detail, but um yeah, we had one night out there where basically just like we broke so many rules, and it was just so funny because we were in like, this is in retrospect pretty dangerous, like in the middle of Barcelona, kind of just like running on the streets at like 4 a.m, but it was like by far like one of the funniest things ever.
Yeah, like something that will always stick in your mind as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah, like I still think about it. And it's funny because now when like me and the girls in my class, my original class, like the Val, Lizzie, Rosie, those girls, whenever we get together, like for like 2 hours, we'll talk about like, oh, do you remember when? Do you remember when? Like all this stuff. And it's just like, oh, it's so fun.
Yeah, it brings like being part of a college athletics like department, it brings like friends for life as well.
Oh
And it's
gosh, I know. And like so many stories about like boys and so many stories about other teams. Oh, and so many like embarrassing times from like, wait, do you think they remembered that I did that kind of thing? Oh, it's so funny. And like things with our coaches that they have like no idea about. It's just so funny.
so obviously like you had a great time there. Like what was your honest experience like of Northeastern? Like was it everything you thought it would be, or is it anything like that you thought could have been better?
Honestly, besides the fact that I wish we had won more conference championships, like it was literally everything that I thought it would be, because I think that like one of the biggest things I like um learned coming out of it, or that like none of it really would have had the impact it had on me if it weren't for the people that I had met there. Um and for that, like I've had some of the best experiences in my life, and now that I'm like really ending like within this month, I'm kind of realizing like, holy shit, like I might not have realized it in the moment, but like those were like some of the best years ever. Like, and not like beyond just soccer, in terms of just like being in Boston, like having experiences being in Boston, like after the Patriots win, whatever, you go to the Patriots parade, going to Red
Yeah,
Sox games, going to like bars in Boston, going out
Marathon
in Boston,
Monday, like
being around so many like other colleges, and then having like the academic support that we had through like athletic advisors and doing my co-op and stuff. Like my co-op, I have so many crazy stories from my co-op, stuff like that. It honestly, on top of it, that I was able to share with the girls on my team was like the coolest thing ever. And like obviously, like I'd wish we had won more conference championships, but like we were pretty successful as a team, and I'll like always remember that stuff. So it was cool.
yeah. So obviously now you've moved on. You nearly finished with your college. Um, obviously you started your own bakery business, Evie's Cakes, and I can vouch for them. They're amazing. So tell us about that. How did that idea first come around, and like what made you pursue it?
Wait, so I didn't even know you've ever had one of my cakes.
Yeah, I tasted some. Don't worry.
Oh,
So
okay.
I couldn't let him walk by without me tasting it. I was like, all right, give him a piece of that.
You're a little critic. Um, no, I don't honestly. This whole thing had started back when I was like, I think it's pretty recent. I was like a junior. This was like my third year in college, and I kind of I've always enjoyed art growing up my whole life. My mom was an art major in college. My sister enjoys art. I enjoy art. And I kind of would just start making like my family members like birthday cakes. And it wasn't necessarily the baking, it was more the decorating that I was like, oh my God, this is fun. And I like I I fucking love dessert. So I was like, it's a win-win. I get to make it
Yeah.
and I get to eat it all. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And I made whatever birthday cakes for family members, and then I got to school, and then I made my friends birthday cakes at school, stuff like that. And then eventually my biggest supporters, I'll just say it right out, flat out, Hannah Rosenblatt, Kayla Capuzzo, and Shannon Simmons and Megan Adams are like the people that were like, yeah, no, you're going to make an Instagram. You're going to have a legitimate business. Rosie crunches numbers for me on the regular. She's like, just so you know, it costs you X amount of money to make this type of cake. Da, 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 da. Kayla's like, hey, Eve, like, are you going to make something for my wedding? Kind of stuff like that. Shannon taste tests everything. So does Megan. But basically, like, they were so like, you should do something more with it. Like, you could literally do more with it. And I was like, honestly, yeah, whatever. So I started taking it more seriously. And I mean, everything I know, I just taught myself online. It's like easier, like nowadays than it was years ago, because of like the amount of tutorials, the amount of like bakery pages, the amount of like cake decorating pages there are on social media. So I kind of just like did what they did and just practiced it over time, got the right supplies, and I've really started to enjoy it. And I don't necessarily know where it's going to go, but I do love like getting orders from people and basically doing whatever they want me to do, putting my own spin on it. Um, the more like the crazier the flavor, the crazier the decorations they want, like the more fun it is for me. So I like
Yeah.
love to encourage people to be like, oh, like I want like some lady was like, I want things sticking off of like every single side of the cake. Like I want a globe on it. I want it 5 tiers. Like so many crazy expectations that for me it was honestly fun because it was challenging. I get really nervous sometimes that they're not going to be executed the way I need them to be, but yeah. So I mean, it's been fun and it's kind of just grown since then. Social media is like a good place in today's age to kind of promote stuff, and I've gotten a lot of kids at Northeastern that have been interested in buying cakes for me, and then I'll post them. Something recently that I did that I thought was one of the more special things that I've done, and meaningful things. I made like 3 or 4 cakes that were dedicated to Kobe Bryant after he had passed away, and kind of just the money that I had made from them donated back to his charity that his wife started. So
Yeah, that's brilliant.
yeah, so that was like cool. So for me, it's like it's more than just like whatever getting paid for it. Like I actually enjoy it, but yeah, so we'll
Yeah,
see
so
where it takes me. Maybe one day I'll own a bakery, but I'm not too business savvy, so I need some help in that sector.
yeah, you've got
If it were
Rosie's
up to
crunching
me,
numbers.
I have this thing that like my roommate always says. I always say like, if there's somebody I would make it. Somebody would be like, Eve, like, can you make me a cake? Like that. I'll be like, if there's somebody out, I want to make a cake for free for, it's you. And my roommate's like, you can't do that. Like you're never gonna make money. So if I could, I'd just make cakes all day and give them out for free. But I'd get fat and I'd be poor.
Yeah, that wouldn't go down too well.
So it wouldn't go down great. But
So
yeah.
tell us about your Instagram then. What is it called, and also like what kind of designs are on there for people like
Yeah.
that might be interested in taking a look.
So my Instagram is called Evie's Cakey, and it's pretty much just a place for me to show some of the more special cakes I've made over the last few years. I think at the moment I only have like 6 posts, and that's one thing I'm going to focus on in the upcoming months is I'm just trying to get more of my content out there, get it seen, because most of the cakes I make are like very different from the last and the next cake that I'll end up making. But the ones that are on there right now are probably my favorite ones. I try to put on content that I think is different than a lot of bakeries, or that kind of have some special meaning behind them, whether that's for the person that they were for, or just in terms of the amount of time it took me to make them. I think that my favorite cake I've ever made is one of the more recent posts I have on there, and it probably took me about 15 hours. Like I wish I was exaggerating, 15 hours to do, because I like I made all the like fondant characters on it. So just to be able to like show that kind of stuff, I think is kind of fun for myself. So
Yeah,
yeah.
they are like they look so mouthwatering as well. Like every time I see the picture, I'm like, wow, this looks
Thank
great.
you. I try to make them really colorful, so some people are like, well, it's like going to turn my teeth blue. I'm like, well, it's pretty,
Yeah,
because
you've got a
everybody's like,
toothbrush and some toothpaste, like
well, everybody says it doesn't matter how it looks, it matters how it tastes. And I'm like, that's not true, because I don't want to taste anything that doesn't look good, right?
yeah,
You don't want to
exactly.
try something that doesn't look good.
So that is on Instagram is Evie's Cakey. So it's EVIESCAKEY. Like take a look and I'm sure you'll be impressed. So just before we wrap up there, Eve, thanks for taking the time today. It's been great hearing your journey over the years and also what you're up to now. It's like really exciting. But before we go, what's some advice you could offer out there to future and current student athletes who are either still competing or thinking about committing to a college to play sports?
um, yeah. So I just want to add on to what you were saying before on my Cake account. Like, my email is attached, so that's how people can contact me, or they can DM me directly. I have Rosie also attached to the Instagram account, so if I miss it, she'll hopefully catch it and see it. But the future advice that I have Advice for future athletes, gosh. I'd say, and for current athletes, honestly, I'd say together, kind of just no matter where you're at, appreciate the good and the bad things. It's inevitable that like you're going to go through adversity, you're going to deal with hardships. Um, and I think for me, while I have so many experiences that come from just like really positive situations, I don't think that my teammates and myself would have been able to go through those such good experiences if we hadn't dealt with adversity with the character and the strength that we had. Because it's inevitable, like you're going to go through shit's going to happen, it's going to suck. But based off my injury and what we were talking about earlier, just like believe in yourself, and it's kind of just like how you deal with that is the most important thing. Yeah, and I'm sure like we had talked about earlier, again, so many people would probably say this, but embrace the time that you have, because 4 5 years, whatever it might be for individuals, like seems like a lot of time. Like it goes by faster than any other time in my life so far. And I think that's because it was the best time of my life. And I'm really trying to keep that going, but I'm not really sure it's gonna work now that I'm not in school. But yeah, kind of just like just have fun, appreciate it, and everything will work out if you work hard.
Yeah, that's great advice, especially like you've been through a lot of lows, but also had a lot of highs as well during your time. So
Yeah.
that's great advice for the future.
Yeah. And like don't take shit from anybody, kind of thing. Like
yeah.
people have shit to say, then let them, because like just believe in yourself and like focus on yourself. Perfect. And take care of your friends, protect your teammates, protect your friends.
Yeah, they're the ones that look out for you all the
field
time,
and out in fun times.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Chief.